Shalom. First, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha HaKadosh. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone, from whom I learned this truth. Shalom to the 144,000 elect. I am Mayakala, and I wanted to do a lesson on temperance. And that's probably what I'll call this, just simply temperance. And this won't be very long because I only have a few precepts that I wanted to bring out on it. And first, I just wanted to go to Google and get a definition of temperance. And the first one says abstinence from alcoholic drink. And then there's a second definition here, which is really what I wanted to focus more on. It says the quality of moderation or self-restraint. That's the one that I wanted to focus on, having doing things in or having alcohol or even certain foods in moderation, and having self-restraint when you are at the table eating, that you just don't overindulge and just eat and eat. You don't always have to eat until your belly is just full, where you're just sluggish. All right. And I just, like I said, just have a couple precepts that I wanted to bring out. The first one that I want to bring out is Proverbs 21. And verse 17. And it says, "He that loveth pleasure shall be a poor man. He that loveth wine and oil shall not be rich." And I'll read that in the NLT. It says, "Those who love pleasure become poor." A lot of times you focus on pleasurable things, on pleasing yourself and going out to dinner and going to restaurants and ordering food all the time. It can be a bad thing, because first of all, instead of going and shopping, going to the grocery store and cooking for, where you can buy exactly what it is that you want and cook for yourself, that way you'll know exactly what kind of oils you're using to cook in, and you'll be able to at least sometimes have leftovers that you can store and come back later on and finish up that meal that you prepared. And you can find yourself, of course, going to a grocery store and preparing your own meals will be a whole lot cheaper than ordering fast food, having food sent to you, or going out to buy food on a regular basis, going to restaurants to sit down and eat. The rest of the verse reads, it says, "Those who love wine and luxury will never be rich." So just as I said, there's nothing wrong with enjoying yourself and going maybe to have a meal every now and then. Even if you find yourself, maybe you might even do it once a week. But when you indulge in wine on a regular basis, like every day you're drinking wine, or you find out you're trying to go into a restaurant and sit down and indulge in a meal every day, you're going to find that you're going to just blow through money, and you won't even have anything stored up in your house to eat for yourself for later on. You'll be stuck in that rut of going out to buy food, buy restaurant food all the time. So that's what it's saying. But those who love pleasure become poor. All right. It's easier to go out and go to a restaurant or order food, but it's also expensive. All right. I wanted to go to Proverbs chapter 23. And I want to read the verse 1. It says, "When thou sittest to eat with a ruler, consider diligently what is before thee." So you sit down and sit at the table of a person who's accustomed to having the finest foods, to having the finest things brought to him, to having the finest meals prepared for him, is not necessarily a good thing, because like I said, you can indulge in foods that are not necessarily prepared the way they should be prepared. They're prepared for taste rather than being prepared for that they can nourish you and replenish you. Verse 2 says, "And put a knife to thy throat, if thou be a man given to appetite." And in the NLT it says, "If you are a big eater, put a knife to your throat." All right, and that's something that you don't want to do in a literal sense, but it's what it's saying is that especially if you indulge in those rich foods, and you're known to be and you know that you have a big appetite, it's easy to overindulge in those rich foods, and over time those rich foods can have take a toll on your organs. It can take a toll on your heart, can take a toll on your liver, and it can shorten your life just because you want to indulge in those rich, maybe rich fatty foods, or way these foods may be prepared in certain oils. A lot of these seed oils are not good for you. All right, so what you in essence of what you're doing is you are indulging, and you're slowly putting a knife to your throat. So in a literal sense, if you're gonna do it over, if you're gonna do harm to yourself over a long period of time, it'd be easier to just go ahead and do harm to yourself immediately and put the knife to your throat. So that's what it's saying, and basically that's what you're doing. If you're overindulging, or if you're indulging in rich foods that are just prepared for your taste and for your pleasure, you're slowly putting a knife to your throat, because of the way that you're indulging, because of the way that what you're eating, the taste that you're enjoying, those pleasures that you're enjoying uh, for your delight. All right, and I just wanted to read. I wanted to go over to Daniel, and I'm going to go to chapter 1. This is about. I'm not going to read all of it, just going to read a few short verses from here. But this is about King Nebuchadnezzar, who, after he had taken over Jerusalem, and he decided he wanted to have a few of the men of Judah to join his court. In essence, he wanted to have some knowledgeable men. He wanted to have good-looking men. He wanted to have healthy men, and in an effort to take care of these healthy men, he wanted to have them eat of his table and eat of his meals, eat the things that he would indulge in. All right, so I'm going to drop down to verse 8, and this says Daniel's resolve. Daniel was one of the prophets, or one of the wise men of Jerusalem that he had, that the king had his men select. And it says, "But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself." And you know what? I think I want to read this in the NLT. And it says, but Daniel was determined not to defile himself by eating the food and the wine given to them by the king. He asked the chief of staff for permission not to eat these unacceptable foods. Verse 9, it says, and I'm staying in the NLT, it says, now the Most High had given the chief of staff both respect and affection for Daniel. But as he responded, I am afraid of my lord the king, who has ordered that you eat this food and wine. If you become pale and thin compared to the other youths your age, I am afraid the king will have me beheaded. And I'm going to jump back to the KJV. It says, verse 11, then Daniel said to Melzar, whom the prince of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Verse 12, it says, prove thy servants, I beseech thee, 10 days, and let them give us pulse to eat and water to drink. And I wanted to go into the NLT. Or Salaki, I wanted to go into the interlinear and see what pulse is. And pulse is H2235. And I'll give you a pronunciation in the Hebrew.
Strong's H2235. Zeroim. Zeroim. And the form just below that, Zereonim. Zereonim.
All right, and under the biblical usage, it says simply vegetables. Strong's definition says something sown, vegetable. Let's see what the etymology and the root of the word is. And I'll give you a pronunciation.
Strong's H2232. Zareh. Zareh.
All right, and it says to sow or scatter seed. And probably the best definition for this, it says to be sown, to produce seed or yield seed. All right, that's just the etymology of the words. All right, but so we want to go back to the original one that we used, H2235, and it says vegetables. All right, so that's what pulse is. Pulse is vegetables, and I'll read it in the NLT. Verse 12 says, please test us for 10 days on a diet of vegetables and water, Daniel said. So instead of having wine and the fine meats that the king wanted to have them eat, Daniel preferred to have vegetables, and instead of wine, he'd rather have water. It says, verse 13, and I'm still in the NLT, it says, at the end of the 10 days, see how we look compared to the other men who are eating the king's food. Then make your decision in light of what you see. Verse 14, the attendant agreed to Daniel's suggestion and tested them for 10 days. And at the end of the 10 days, Daniel and his 3 friends looked healthier and better nourished than the young men who had been eating the food assigned by the king. Verse 16, so after that, the attendant fed them only vegetables instead of food and wine provided for the others. The Most High gave these four young men an unusual aptitude for understanding every aspect of literature and wisdom. And the Most High gave Daniel the special ability to interpret the meaning of visions of dreams. All right, I'm going to stop right there because that's really all I wanted to get. Because Daniel was a wise man. He had the wisdom to know that those meats and that wine on a daily basis is not good for him. It's not what he wanted to have. He would rather have water and have vegetables. That's what he was used to eating, and that's the way he wanted to continue to have his diet, being uh, having self-restraint. As we looked in the word temperance, that's what he was using. He was using self-restraint because it would have been easy for him to say, "Oh, I can indulge in wine and indulge in these fine meats that the king eats," but he used self-restraint. He used wisdom because he knew having that type of changing that to that type of diet wouldn't be good for him. All right, and like I said, I'm not gonna make this very long. I just have one more verse that I want to bring out, and that'll be the end. And I'm gonna go back to Proverbs, and I'm gonna go to chapter 25 and verse 16, and it says, "Hast thou found honey? Eat so much as is sufficient for thee, lest thou be filled therewith and vomited." So, uh, having honey is definitely better than using sugar or using other of these uh, man-made sweeteners. All right. Um, I'll read it in the NLT. It says, "Do you like honey? Don't eat too much or it will make you sick." So overindulging and having too much of anything, even something that is as healthy as having honey, which is definitely better than just white sugar. Even having too much of it, it could make you sick. Not having that self-restraint. All right, and I just wanted to take a look here and see properties of honey. It says honey is a natural sweetener produced by bees, possesses diverse properties that contribute to its nutritional and medicinal value. Let's see if we can find the medicinal properties. It says antibacterial. Honey's high sugar content and acidic pH inhibit bacterial growth. It's an anti-inflammatory. It's an antioxidant, and phenolic compounds reduce inflammation. It's good for wound healing. It says honey promotes collagen protection and inhibits infection. It can be used as a digestive aid. Honey's enzymes help improve digestion and reduce bloating. Immune boosting. It says honey contains antioxidants that may strengthen the immune system. And also good for blood sugar control. It says some studies suggest that honey may have a lower glycemic index than refined sugar. So definitely honey is better for you than refined sugar is. All right. But I'm going to leave it there. I just wanted to take a look at some of the properties of honey since that verse mentioned honey. And just in an effort to show you that self-restraint and temperance is good in all things. All right, even if something has healing properties and something is good for you, you can overindulge in it and have too much, and it can be a hindrance to you. It can make you sick. So you want to use temperance and self-restraint in all things that you use, all right? So I'm going to go ahead and end this there. And I pray that this has been edifying to the listener. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakahakadosh, Shalom.